new opening act.
We're in uncharted waters again.
The show must go on.
There is reason to hope again.
I think people are going to be crying. I know I will.
An original CBS Reports documentary.
Well, good morning. Welcome to CBS News Mornings. It's 7 o'clock here in New York City. I'm Anne-Marie Green. Here's a look at the stories grabbing our attention right now. President Biden delivers one of the strongest official statements in support of Taiwan in decades, vowing U.S. military action if China decides to invade. So we're going to have the highlights from his first trip to Asia since taking office. Emergency shipments of desperately needed baby formula are finally arriving in the U.S. as parents demand longer-term solutions. We're going to have all the latest details on that coming up. Plus, Republicans and Democrats can't find common ground on most issues, but both sides overwhelmingly agree that inflation is public enemy number one. Our Ed O'Keefe breaks down what it means for the midterm elections. Plus, retirees are returning to work in droves nationwide as inflation and stock market volatility threaten 401ks. So if you're thinking about retirement, we're going to tell you what you need to know a little later on in our Money Watch segment. And we are tracking growing concerns over monkeypox in the U.S. and cases rising worldwide.
But it is something that everybody should be concerned about. We're working on it hard to figure out what we do and what vaccine, if any, may be available for it. But it is a concern in the sense that if it were to spread, it's consequential.
So later this hour, I'm going to speak to a doctor about the symptoms, the rate of infection, and more as health officials confirm new cases here in the U.S. But before all of that, we're going to begin in Japan, where President Biden delivered some of the strongest statements in support of Taiwan in more than 2 decades. He said America is prepared to use military force to defend Taiwan if China invades. Now, this comes as the president makes his way across Asia for the very first time as U.S. Commander-in-Chief. He's currently meeting with leaders from the region as he assures them of unwavering U.S. support. Bradley Blackburn is following all the latest and joins us now this morning. Bradley, good morning.
Hey, Marie, good morning. This isn't the first time the president has gone off script on the subject of Taiwan, and the White House has tried to roll back his comments. Geopolitics are always center stage on a foreign trip, but the president's main focus in Tokyo today is trade. President Biden arrived in Tokyo last night on a mission to revive U.S. interests on the other side of the globe. This morning, Emperor Naruhito formally welcomed the president to Japan. Afterwards, Mr. Biden met with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The two leaders reaffirmed their alliance in the face of threats from China and Russia.
The United States remains fully committed to Japan's defense, and we will face the challenges of today and the future together.
President Biden is unveiling a new trade agreement today, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework.
The purpose of which is to increase our cooperation with other nations in the region and deliver concrete benefits for the people of the Indo-Pacific region.
The White House hopes the new agreement will serve as a replacement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The TPP was negotiated under President Obama, but President Trump withdrew the U.S. from it shortly after taking office in 2017.
In recent years, the alliance between Japan and the United States has grown stronger, deeper, and more capable.
Details of the new trade deal are still being finalized, but Biden administration officials say it will increase trade while helping U.S. businesses and workers compete globally. And to avoid issues with China, Taiwan was specifically left out of this new trade pact. But White House officials say they want to deepen the direct partnership with Taiwan on things like semiconductor supplies. Anne-Marie.
So, Bradley, you pointed out that the White House sort of issued a statement saying nothing about the U.S. policy towards Taiwan has changed because, as you mentioned, the president sort of went off script, but he's done that before. Any concern about potential fallout from China, not only to perhaps what was said today, but the trip in general?
Yeah, Anne-Marie, so formally the U.S. government's position is that it accepts a one-China policy and does not recognize Taiwan as an independent state. Of course, the U.S. quietly supports Taiwan militarily, so a lot about this arrangement goes unspoken. But President Biden said it out loud, and China watchers expected a rebuke. And this morning, China's foreign minister apparently said that no one should underestimate China's ability to defend its territorial integrity, Anne-Marie.
Wow. Bradley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, a scathing new report says leaders of the largest Protestant denomination in the U.S. ignored survivors of clergy sex abuse for almost 2 decades. It says that people who reported abuse faced resistance and hostility from the Southern Baptist Convention's administrative arm. In a statement, the convention's president said that he is, quote, grieved to the core for the victims. The report called for an independent commission to oversee long-term reforms concerning sexual abuse and misconduct. This includes creating an offender information system to alert people about known offenders and having a comprehensive resource toolbox to include protocols, training, and practical information. A presumptive case of monkeypox is being investigated in South Florida. Health officials there in Broward County say that the patient is in isolation, and the case appears to be related to international travel. Now, the World Health Organization says that there's been at least 92 confirmed cases in 12 countries, and the CDC says at least 2 have been confirmed in the U.S., one in Massachusetts and the other in New York City. There are also another 50 suspected cases. Lawmakers hope to get more answers on the baby formula shortage this week when FDA Chief Robert Califf testifies before the Senate. Now, this comes as the CEO of Abbott, whose manufacturing plant shut down in February, wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post saying, "We're sorry to every family we've let down." Meanwhile, a military plane carrying 78,000 pounds of baby formula from Europe arrived in the U.S. yesterday. More shipments are expected in the coming days. Tomorrow, 5 states will hold their midterm primary elections in the latest test of former President Trump's influence over the Republican Party. While voting will take place in Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, and Minnesota, Georgia will have everyone's attention, especially when it comes to the Republican race for governor. Trump is backing former GOP Senator David Perdue. However, former Vice President Mike Pence endorsed current Governor Brian Kemp. Both are expected to rally for their respective candidates this evening. So at the bottom of the hour, I'll be speaking with our senior White House and political correspondent, Ed O'Keefe, who is in Atlanta following the race for us. And we are getting breaking news this morning. A Russian soldier has been sentenced to life in prison for killing an unarmed Ukrainian civilian. The sentencing comes as Ukraine cracks down on Russia's alleged war crimes. 21-year-old Vadim Shishimarin pleaded guilty to killing and said that he shot the civilian because he was ordered to do so. Additional war crimes trials are happening now in Ukraine, and as those verdicts come in, we will keep you updated. So 2 people were killed in a devastating tornado on Friday in a really unexpected location. We're going to take a look at the damages as families in Michigan clean up in the wake of the storm. Plus, a dramatic rescue captured on video. We will bring you details on how authorities saved a man clinging to life at the edge of a cliff in California. But first, it is 7:07 on the East Coast. Time to check your local weather.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year.
I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like, wow.
Big rewards.
There's gold in them, there are hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's going to bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers? They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes, that's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 minutes, 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
You know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel.
Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth
Right now.
We got something crazy. And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative,
Da-da-da-da.
and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Well, the time now is 7:11 p.m. in Beijing. Officials there are reacting after President Biden said today in Tokyo that the U.S. will be open to using force to protect the island of Taiwan in the face of an invasion from China. We're going to have more on that a little later in the hour. In the meantime, it is 7:11 a.m. here in New York City. CBS News Mornings is back with a look at some of the stories that you may have missed while you were offline. Pennsylvania's Democratic nominee for Senate, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, is out of the hospital after suffering a stroke. The 52-year-old was hospitalized on May 13th. He won the nomination last Tuesday, just hours after undergoing surgery to implant a pacemaker with a defibrillator. Maryland State Police are investigating after a megabus rolled over along Interstate 95 yesterday. According to the company, 15 people, including the driver, were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. 12 others were also hurt. Officials say no other vehicles were involved. And dramatic video shows a California Highway Patrol cliff rescue. A fisherman called 911 last Thursday to report a man clinging to a cliff wall hundreds of feet above the ocean. A helicopter crew airlifted the man to safety, and officials have not yet released details about how he got stranded there. People in Gaylord, Michigan are still cleaning up this morning after a deadly tornado on Friday. 2 people were killed and more than 40 were hurt. The storm brought winds of up to 140 miles per hour. Meanwhile, days of wet weather are on tap across the South. So we're going to bring in Jim Cantori from our partners at the Weather Channel. Jim, actually in the South, they really need this rain.
Anne-Marie, thanks to our virtual view technology, we're able to transport you and our viewers to this area outside our Weather Channel studios into the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. This is the Continental Avenue Bridge here. Cloudy skies on tap today before the storms move in later tonight, and then stick around through midweek. Thursday, we start to clear out and that should last right on through the weekend here. Metroplex, just one of the southern spots that's in need of some rainfall. I mean, just check this out. This is unbelievable. The deficits in through here that have grown, especially in the southeast. And we've had a pretty wet winter, but all of a sudden in the spring, things just dry out. Look at Savannah, Georgia, down almost 7.5 inches there, over a foot in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So all these areas that we have here are going to get some rainfall. We'll see how beneficial it is by the end of the week. We also have to watch out for the chance of severe thunderstorms. We have, while you guys were sleeping last night, almost our first tropical system coming ashore. Believe it or not, just west of Pensacola. They had a 48-mile-per-hour wind gust there. We've got a system that's spinning up through Alabama, soon to be Georgia, Tennessee, and it's going to bring a wad of very, very heavy rain with it as we go on through the day and tonight. But we're not done. Then we look to the west. There's an upper storm sitting over the Rockies. That pulls out, brings another wave of rain back into Texas, and then eventually the southeast and southern Appalachia as well. So this is just what the doctor ordered. If we can avoid the too much rain in short periods of time, things will go very, very well here. Again, areas that are in drought, all looking at forecast rainfall, some that aren't, of course. You can't win everywhere, but notice this rain. I mean, this is huge. 3 to 5, a couple of spots of 5 to 8 inches in southern Appalachia here and back across central Texas, even down to Abilene and San Antonio. Folks should do very, very well with all this. Anne-Marie, you can catch all-day coverage featuring our virtual view technology only on the Weather Channel Television Network.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. You can also get the latest on the weather in your area on the CBS News app. It gives you access to all of our CBS News national and local streams for free, anytime, anywhere. Well, London's Big Ben is back and better than before after spending the past 5 years under repair. The world-famous landmark will soon start chiming every hour on the hour. Cracks in the masonry have been fixed, while the lights behind the clock face have been switched with energy-efficient LEDs. Restorers even brought the dials back to their original color, Prussian blue.
We've taken every single nut and bolt apart. Taken everything apart from the big frame itself out of the tower, and we've looked at every single individual part, serviced it, cleaned it, painted it if it needed repairing. We've repaired it, and now we're in the process of bringing every single part back again.
Big Ben's home, Elizabeth Tower, has undergone a $100 million renovation. They expect to let visitors back inside for tours later on this year. And remember Nirvana's 1991 hit, Smells Like Teen Spirit? You heard it everywhere all the time. Well, Kurt Cobain's legendary electric guitar from that music video has been auctioned off. We're going to tell you how much it sold for coming up.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars. Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year.
I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like, wow.
Big rewards.
There's gold in them, there are hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes,
That's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 minutes, 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
you know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel. Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. and reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun. But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Some defendants in the January 6th Capitol riot are about to learn if their trials will be held outside of Washington. Scott McFarland explains the importance of this decision.
USA! USA! More than a dozen high-level defendants who are accused of racing to Washington on January 6, 2021 are now racing to get away from the nation's capital. From a Pennsylvania woman accused of directing the mob, to the California man who allegedly used chemical spray on police, to this series of accused Oath Keepers charged with seditious conspiracy. A growing number of Capitol riot defendants have formally requested a change of venue to move their criminal cases out of the D.C. federal courthouse, which sits within sight of the Capitol.
People feel differently around the country as they do here.
A CBS News review of thousands of pages of court filings shows they're making largely the same argument, that the prospective jurors in D.C. are too biased to hear the case because of intense media coverage, political leanings, and they argue D.C. jurors are uniquely victimized by January 6th because of the enhanced security and the fencing in the district, and from their close connections to federal workers. Outside court, a defendant from New Mexico told us others should consider moving their cases.
If I was anywhere except Washington, D.C., I would say go with the jury trial.
The Justice Department, legal analysts, and judges have strongly disagreed, saying media coverage of January 6th is everywhere and that cases needn't be moved. But a judge says he'll consider the new request from the accused Oath Keepers, who argued that because the first 4 January 6 defendants to face D.C. juries were all convicted on all counts, jurors are just stacked against them. Isn't that a sign of a strong case?
Well, the judge alluded that could be a possibility. The attorney that was arguing for the change of venue argued that that's because the people in this district feel more personally touched by this case.
A ruling on this issue could impact many cases to come. Of the nearly 800 criminal defendants so far in the U.S. Capitol attack, about 2/3 of them still face the prospect of trial. Scott McFarland, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
A former Defense Secretary, Robert Gates, weighed in on the January 6th attack in an interview with Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation.
Do you think it is important for the American public to have a full accounting of the events of January 6th with these public hearings that are planned in the weeks ahead?
I think so. What happened on January 6th was a huge blight on our democracy.
You think there is value in having this aired publicly?
I think so, yes. I think people need to understand. My worry is that everybody will retreat to their ideological corner, and so nobody will listen. I think maybe the best thing to do is just to rerun the videos.
Former Trump Secretary of Defense Mark Esper was with us on Face the Nation recently, and he revealed some pretty shocking things about what he witnessed when he was part of the administration. Unconstitutional, illegal, immoral action, firing missiles into Mexico, shooting American protesters in the legs. Did you know that these types of ideas were being considered at that time?
A few of them, not those specific ones, but some others that he talks about. So people would call me from the Pentagon and tell me that we're wrestling with how to respond to this. So I had some flavor of it, but none of the kind of detail that Mark Esper has in his book.
Do you believe President Trump running for office again would present that threat to national security?
It would concern me.
That's a very diplomatic phrase.
Yeah, that's where I am.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has apparently made his mark on the world of fashion with his jacket. The Ukrainian company that makes the olive green fleece jacket he wears says that it has become so popular that it's out of stock. The company says that it won't produce any more right now because it's making clothing for the military, but it hopes to restock after the war. Kurt Cobain's legendary blue 1969 left-handed Fender Mustang electric guitar has sold for more than $4.5 million. It was purchased yesterday by Jim Irsay Collection of Indianapolis. Now, Cobain has played that guitar in the 1991 video for Smells Like Teen Spirit. A portion of the proceeds will go to an initiative to raise awareness about mental health. We are following a few major stories in our next half hour. Tomorrow is primary day for several states, including Georgia, where former President Trump's influence on the GOP will once again be tested. We're going to have a preview coming up next. And there are growing questions over whether it's smart to retire right now while the stock market remains volatile. So coming up, I'll speak with a writer and editor from the AARP about all the latest concerns. Plus, President Biden says that the rise of monkeypox cases is something everyone should be concerned about. Still ahead, I'll speak with a doctor about everything you need to know. We'll be right back. You're streaming CBS News Mornings.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars. Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year.
I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like,
wow. Big rewards.
There's gold in them, their hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes,
that's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 minutes, 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
You know how this sounds.
What's your response to that?
60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel. Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy.
And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to CBS News Mornings. It is 7:28. Let's get you caught up on some of the news that you may have missed. 78,000 pounds of baby formula from Europe arrived in Indiana yesterday. It's part of the Biden administration's efforts to combat the nationwide shortages. A second shipment is expected this week. The CDC says the U.S. has at least 2 confirmed cases and 1 suspected case of monkeypox. Experts say that number could rise in the coming days. Monkeypox is treatable, and most patients recover in a few weeks, but in some rare cases, it can be deadly. President Biden revealed new plans for his Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. The deal partners the U.S. with 12 countries looking to bolster supply chains, decrease corruption, pursue clean energy, and build stronger trade alliances. Now, Taiwan is not part of the framework, but President Biden says that the U.S. would intervene militarily if China were to invade Taiwan. Several high-stakes primary races are set for tomorrow in 5 states across the country. One issue at the top of voters' minds, the economy. According to the latest polling from CBS News, nearly 3/4 of people say that things are going badly in the country right now. So with more than 2/3 of those surveyed saying that the economy is in bad shape, that's an increase of more than 20% from last year. Our senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is in Atlanta covering Georgia's Republican primary. Georgia is another test for former President Trump's influence. Thanks for joining us. I think that this is actually one of the bigger tests of his influence.
Sure is, Anne-Marie, which is why we're here. There are 4 southern states holding contests on Tuesday, but we came to the Peach State because he is quite involved in several of the primaries being held in this state. Let's start with the one with national implications and the U.S. Senate. The former president's handpicked candidate, Herschel Walker, given polling, is running away with this, the former running back is, and he's set to face Democrat Raphael Warnock in what could be the most expensive and decisive, one of the ugliest Senate races this year. But the primary here that the former president is perhaps most personally concerned about involves the governor, Brian Kemp. He's one of those state officials who stood up to the former president, said they weren't going to change the results of the 2020 elections, and he's drawn the ire of the former president ever since. He's being challenged by former Senator David Perdue, who was put up to it by Mr. Trump, and Perdue is trailing badly, so Kemp is likely to prevail without needing to go to a runoff on Tuesday night. And in a sign of how Republicans believe that this party can still be transformed heading into 2024, former Vice President Mike Pence is set to campaign with the governor tonight outside Atlanta in open defiance of the former president. Again, a sign that there are some in the GOP who still believe there's a chance to win back the party. Anne-Marie.
All right, Ed, thank you very much. Boy, it sounds like it's pouring out there. Coming up later today on Red and Blue, our CBS News team will continue coverage of all the latest developments heading into tomorrow's primaries. You can stream that in our 6 p.m. Eastern hour. We'll be right back. Well, President Biden is sending China a sharp warning as he makes his way through Asia. He indicated that the U.S. will step up militarily to protect Taiwan if there's an attack by China. Now, the president made the stunning remark while responding to a question from CBS News chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes, who is joining me now from Tokyo with more on this. So, yeah, this was like one of those situations where we thought, is the president saying the quiet part out loud? And the White House quickly jumped in. But I want to play the exchange for people if they haven't heard it.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made. The idea that it can be taken by force, just taken by force, is just not appropriate.
Can you explain why his response was so surprising?
I can. Good morning, Anne-Marie. The reason it's so surprising is because the U.S. has this long-held policy of, quote, unquote, strategic ambiguity. That's basically where we don't say whether we would defend Taiwan against China or not. And there's a reason we're so ambiguous about that, and it's because the U.S. doesn't want to get pulled into a military conflict with the world's second largest superpower. The U.S. wants to keep its options open, doesn't want to issue a direct warning or threat to China. Well, we just have, apparently, because the president, to the great surprise of his regional allies and even, frankly, some of his aides who were there with him in the room, basically said, yes, he would be willing to defend Taiwan militarily if China does make good on its threats to take over Taiwan by force. Now, it won't surprise you that a few minutes, literally just a few minutes after the president said that, the White House was already walking it back, issuing a statement that said that, there was really no change to the U.S. policy and that what the president is committed to is making sure that Taiwan has what it needs to defend itself. But the reality is that what the president said there was very different, and he seemed to be committing to defending Taiwan if it comes to that.
And I suppose China has already reacted?
They reacted very swiftly. In fact, a top Chinese spokesman lashed out at the president and said that this is an internal matter, that China considers Taiwan to be part of its territory. That is at the heart of the dispute here, because Taiwan is currently self-governed, and that no country should try to interfere in what China views as domestic affairs. They don't see this as an international conflict because they say that Taiwan is part of China. But there's no question that the president was looking to send a message to China, and he has said something similar to this before, Anne-Marie. About a year ago, he was in a town hall and he was asked if he'd be willing to defend Taiwan, and he said yes. The White House walked it back that time, too. The difference here is the president is literally in China's backyard. He's here in Japan. He was standing next to the Japanese foreign minister when he said this. So there's no question that it got China's attention.
You also asked him about the monkeypox outbreak, and he had been asked about it sort of earlier and kind of expressed concern, but when you asked him, he sort of scaled back the level of concern.
Right. Yesterday, he told reporters that everybody should be worried about monkeypox. And clearly that was a message that the White House did not necessarily want to send. And so when I asked him about it, he said actually he doesn't believe that it is as grave a cause for concern as, say, the COVID-19 pandemic, because he says we've seen the spread of monkeypox before and it doesn't spread that easily, and because he believes that the smallpox vaccine will actually prove effective in stopping the spread if necessary. And I followed up and asked him if the U.S. has enough smallpox vaccine stockpiled, and he said yes, he believes the U.S. does. So he says everyone should be careful until we know more about the spread, but that people shouldn't be alarmed, even though we now have seen the first few cases of monkeypox in the U.S. over the past week or so.
All right. Nancy Cordes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It is 7:36, and this is a live look at New York Times Square, home of CBS Mornings. Tony DeCopel is standing by with a preview. Tony, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Anne-Marie. Always good to see you. Ahead on CBS Mornings, inflation is hitting high school cafeterias all across the country. We're going to look at what's not on the menu anymore for lunch as districts struggle with those higher costs. Also, we've got a special edition of Kindness 101 today. Why is it special? Well, Steve Hartman and his kids will join us live in studio. They're also going to introduce an 11-year-old girl who made it her mission to honor a civil rights pioneer in her own hometown. Finally, we're going to meet the world's youngest opera singer, and that young singer will treat us to a special performance from one of America's most iconic landmarks. Can you tell which one it is? I can't. We'll see you at 8.
See you at 8. Thank you, Tony. We are going to take a quick break, which means you have about 3 minutes or so to download the free CBS News app on all your devices. Our app gives you the best of CBS News all in one place. We'll be right back.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year.
I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like,
wow! Big rewards.
There's gold in them, their hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes,
That's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 minutes, 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
you know how this sounds.
What's your response to that? 60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel.
Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like.
Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth
Right now.
We got something crazy.
and reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun. But wait,
There's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges,
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.
Stock futures are rising ahead of the opening bell this morning as wary investors try to recover gains from the sell-off that has slammed Wall Street. The Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all saw spikes in early trading. The moves come after the S&P drifted dangerously close to bear market territory last week, and the Dow saw its first 8-week losing streak since 1923. More major stores are releasing their quarterly sales reports this week. Some of the big names this week, including Macy's, Dollar General, and Costco. Reports are expected to show decreased sales as consumer spending responds to inflation and increased prices. And American small business owners are losing confidence in the economy. That's according to a survey conducted for the Wall Street Journal. It says that nearly 60% of small business owners expect the economy to get worse in the next year. That's up 15% from April. As the stocks continue to struggle, many people are wondering what will happen with their retirement funds that are invested in the market. Those stakes feel higher for those closer to retirement. An article from AARP titled How to Survive a Bear Market If You're Over 50 looks at the unique challenges facing people as they near the end of their career. So John Wagoner is senior writer and editor and producer at AARP, and he wrote the article, and he's here with some news we can use. Thanks for joining us. I know every time I check in with my 401k, I've lost, several tens of thousands in a very short period of time. And I can only imagine if I was weighing retirement in the coming months, that it would weigh heavily on me. What should people considering retirement, what should they consider if they are in, a group that's close to retirement?
Well, sure. And, you can't help but look at your account and think of how much more fun you could have had with that money. But there's a couple things you can do. First of all, you have to consider your age. If you're 50 and you're still contributing to your retirement plan, you really shouldn't worry about it that much. You'll actually be buying shares cheaper with the same amount of money. And, that's a good thing. Plus, even if you're going to retire at 15, it doesn't mean that you're going to instantly spend all your money. You probably have another 20 or 30 years in retirement. So you have a long time to let that money recover. So the younger you are, the more time you have to let it recover. If you're 65 and you stopped working and you've started taking withdrawals, then you have to do some strategic thinking. The first one of which is don't sell your stocks while they're going down. If your stock is down 10% and you withdraw 5%, boom, you're down 15%. So take the money from some other pot, such as cash or bonds.
So you may have actually already answered my second question, because it was going to be, it's tempting to sort of cut your losses when you see things falling, because you're like, I don't know where the bottom is, so let me just pull out now. But you say there's a downside to this.
Well, the downside, particularly if you're taking withdrawals, is that you could hurt yourself more by taking money out of the stock market at that point if you're taking it out. And plus, for most people, you have to pay income taxes on the money you withdraw from a 401k. So that's an even bigger slice. So if you can, and if you are taking withdrawals, most people aren't 100% in stocks in their retirement accounts, nor should they be. So if you are terrified at night and you wake up screaming, I'm ruined, you need to probably cut back anyway at some point to eventually get your portfolio back to a place where you're not terrified every night.
Right. Your article also mentions having a bucket plan. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. The bucket plan basically says is that you divide your portfolio into roughly three buckets, as it were. The first bucket is for money that you're going to use now. The next is for money you're going to use in 5 to 10 years. And the next is for money you're going to use for 10 years and more. You want to use your first bucket for anything that you need to spend. So that's going to be put in cash. It's going to be safe. You're not going to earn much, but you'll know how much you have. The next you'll put in bonds, the intermediate term one. It's not as risky as stocks. Stocks are getting pounded in this bear market. They're down about half as much as the S&P 500, but again, half as much as the S&P 500. That you're going to use, and you're going to use the income from that to refill your first bucket as you use it. And the last one is stocks, and that's for the longer term. That's for when you want to, when you're retiring, you want to come out and use it for in 10 years, or move it into your first bucket, as it were, so that you're always kind of refilling your buckets as they go on. But the main thing is it keeps you taking money from the safest bucket and eventually refilling it with the assets from riskier buckets.
What changes should people be prepared to see with their 401ks, say, in the coming months? I don't know if you can even predict that.
I can't. Yeah. I can tell you that a typical bear market's going to take about 33% from your stock assets. A really big one, the biggest one we've seen since the Great Depression, was in 2006, and that took 57%. That's a big knock.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember, if you lose 50%, you have to earn 100% to get back to where you were. So there's a longer recovery time, and that would be about 3 to 5 years to get back even. It's also kind of one of those things where usually people always get tempted to buy individual stocks because they see them go up, and it's kind of a good reminder that you're better off with a portfolio of stocks, such as you get in a mutual fund. Netflix is down about 70%. That's a huge loss to take. So you want to, you want to be diversified. You want to spread your assets out, and be patient. The stocks will come back, even if it's only through the dividend payments. But it takes a while.
Right. Be patient. That's probably the number one advice. John Wagner, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we are getting an update from Pfizer and BioNTech this morning. The company says that 3 doses of their COVID vaccine for America's youngest children is producing a strong immune response. They also say their vaccine is 80% effective at preventing symptomatic COVID for kids between the ages of 6 months and 5 years. We should note that the data is preliminary and it comes from the companies. Pfizer and BioNTech still need to complete their submissions to the FDA in order to move forward with the approval process. All right, On to monkeypox now. Those cases are causing concern among the global health experts. The World Health Organization is reporting more than 90 cases of the illness, which is rarely seen outside of Africa, in 12 countries beyond the continent, including here in the U.S. So here to discuss this is Dr. Donald Vinn. He's an infectious disease physician and medical microbiologist with the McGill University Health Center. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning. So let's talk about this monkeypox. It sounds concerning, and we've all seen the pictures online of the people with the bumps and so on and so forth. And I think, you can't help but to have a reaction. How concerned should we be, though, about another potentially deadly virus spreading across the U.S.?
Well, I think we have to just take a step back here. I think we're going to have two levels of concern. First and foremost, as you mentioned before, monkeypox is essentially rare or unheard of in North America. And because it's a new virus and it's causing this new outbreak, obviously there should be concern at the level of the medical and scientific community. We need to make sure that, the at-risk people are aware of what to look out for. We need to make sure that the medical community is educated of what to look out for and how to test for it. And the scientific community also needs to be able to do, some understanding of what's going on with the virus and why it's circulating and how it's circulating. Mm-hmm. But at the level of the general public, though, I'm not sure we're at the concern where people should have any sort of sense of anxiety, certainly no sense of panic. I don't think we need to be in the sort of hoarding response stage that we saw with COVID.
Are there any clues as to, why we're seeing this outbreak now, in other countries where it typically doesn't show up?
Well, it is certainly concerning when you have more than 100 cases spanning at least 11 countries. We're obviously very early in the data acquisition phase of trying to figure out how all these cases are epidemiologically linked. But at least what we've seen so far is that right now it seems to be related to, discrete individuals. Right now it seems to be only in men who are affected, and it may be related to a common activity. And then, of course, those activities are not necessarily related to each other. They may be, related to a common point source or a common exposure. That's not entirely clear. And that's what the scientific community is trying to figure out in parallel. Why all these cases at the same time? Are they related? Unfortunately, we don't have all those answered yet.
The president mentioned a vaccine, possibly even the effectiveness of the smallpox vaccine against monkeypox. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, as we know, smallpox was eradicated in 1980, but as a consequence of its effective effort, the smallpox vaccine actually stopped being routinely used both in Canada and in the U.S. around 1972. So that means that there's a large proportion of the population actually that hasn't had the smallpox vaccine, which is fine because it was eradicated. But the smallpox vaccine actually gives you cross protection against monkeypox somewhere to the order of about 85%. And so because it's that effective and because smallpox vaccines have, shown to be quite safe in humans, what they may be used for now is sort of a containment strategy around confirmed or suspected cases.
Are there certain populations at greater risk?
Well, right now it's hard to tell. Mm-hmm. Right now it seems to be that people who are, who have been in proximity, and I mean close proximity, either direct contact or within sort of respiratory distance from a confirmed or suspected case. Right now, those are the people who are considered at risk and need to monitor and be vigilant for symptoms and seek medical attention if they do. But it isn't one of those types of viruses that are so well transmitted like COVID, where people in a grocery store can get it. And so right now, that's why we need to have different, layers of concern.
So when should you contact a doctor? Like, say that you've been in some sort of contact with somebody with a confirmed case, you're feeling okay. When should you contact a doctor?
So that's a great question. And I think it depends on your symptoms, right? If you have no symptoms, and that means no fever, sore throat, cough, no rash, especially none of these pox or bump lesions, but you heard that you may have been exposed to, or you were exposed to somebody who had monkeypox, you should definitely contact your regional, first of all, your physician, your primary care physician, and your regional, public health authority. But if you actually do develop symptoms after you have, been within 3 weeks of a confirmed or suspected case, and those symptoms would be, as I mentioned, fever, sore throat, cough, rash, or lymph nodes, then you should first make sure you are, absolutely isolating yourself. You contact your medical care professional. They should be able to contact the regional public health authority, and then a chain of investigations should be started from there.
Dr. Vinn, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie.
Drug shortages are rampant across the U.S., but it's not so much about supply and demand. Bill Whitaker investigated this for 60 Minutes.
These recent shortages have become very, very serious and really hit drugs like vincristine that are in every regimen.
Slipping it through.
Vincristine was one of 16 chemo drugs in short supply last year. Dr. Schwartz told us the shortages are forcing doctors to ration scarce drugs.
Does that present you with some ethical dilemmas?
Of course it does. Who wants to be picking how you prioritize one person over another?
One child over another.
One child over another.
I'm just trying to come up with some explanation for why a drug that is known to save lives is not valued. Why it
should be a top value.
The honest answer to that is this private label fee-for-service cost minus, these are things to create lack of transparency to pricing.
But this confusion is on purpose?
Yeah, I want to charge different prices and not have clarity around what people are really paying.
So far, this is clear as mud.
You can see the full investigation tomorrow right here on CBS News. It streams at 8 p.m. Eastern. Well, the time now is 7:54. Here's a look at what's coming up on CBS News today. The high-profile defamation trial involving Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is wrapping up this week with closing arguments scheduled for Friday. Court will resume in a few hours at around 10 a.m. Eastern, and you can stream it live and uninterrupted on the CBS News app. President Biden is making his way through Asia today. He's expected to attend the Quad Summit with leaders from Australia, Japan, and India at around 10:30 p.m. Eastern. They are set to discuss ways to counter China's growing influence in the region. Plus, this week on Here Comes the Sun, our Luke Burbank enters the Marvel Universe and explores the expanding world of comic books. You can stream this latest episode tomorrow morning at 6:30 Eastern and on demand on the CBS News app. And coming up in our 9 o'clock hour, we will speak with a doctor who treats cancer patients and who served on the Biden transition team's COVID advisory board about the impacts of long COVID and why Americans should still mask up and be cautious. You can stream that at around 9:20 Eastern. If you are heading out the door, take us with you. You can access all of our CBS News national and local streams for free anytime, anywhere on the CBS News app. CBS Mornings is next. I'll see you in an hour.
This land is your land. This land is my land.
Earth Day is a day we realize we have to protect the earth.
Use less plastic. Yeah, we should use reusable water bottles.
Turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth. Don't be a litter bug.
This land was made for you and me. And me. And me. And me.
To learn how to make a difference, go to cbsnews.com/Earth Day.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It's gonna be big!
The metaverse, the virtual world that's become a cryptocurrency casino.
It's like buying property on Mars.
Do they get an actual picture of this? No, it's a digital copy. Why would they pay for that?
Making millionaires almost overnight.
We made more than $1 million in crypto last year.
I have no idea how much money I have made over the past year. That's like, wow!
Big rewards.
There's gold in them, there hills, as they say.
Bigger risks.
The market's down, but it's gonna bounce back. It's crypto.
Is it a gold rush or fool's gold?
It's our metaverse, our story. Peace out, y'all.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Stream now.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in our nation's capital. We're here at the White House with the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We've never done an interview like this before.
That's correct.
Tonight, a congressional investigation sparked by reporting from CBS News. What's your message to consumers?
They need help now. Tell him I feel it.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell from Washington, D.C. on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We will witness yet another moment in history.
This week on 60 Minutes,
That's incredible.
The 60 Minutes.
60 minutes. 60 minutes.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
Let me ask you this.
you know how this sounds.
What's your response to that? 60 Minutes Sundays on CBS.
The threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
Let's get the forecast from our partners at the Weather Channel.
Here we are in our virtual view.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
This is our virtual view, what it actually looks like. Those are some of the best graphics I've seen.
Spare no expense, Gail.
We experience the weather in a whole new way.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun. But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
Innovative and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We have an inspiring story that started with a strange act of kindness.
We found it.
You're kidding me!
We share stories that lift you up and brighten your day.
The Uplift. Stream on the free CBS News app.